I found my late wife's laptop in the back of her closet. When the tech support specialist saw what was on it, he said, "Sir, you need to call the police. Now, I'm 68 years old, and until 8 months ago, I thought I knew everything about my wife of 42 years. Her name was Linda Chen Patterson, and she was the kind of woman who kept our family running like a well-oiled machine. She remembered everyone's birthdays, organized neighborhood potlucks, and somehow managed to make our modest home in Kelowna, British Columbia, feel like the center of the universe. When she died last February from what the doctors called a sudden stroke, I felt like someone had cut the power to my entire life. One morning she was making her famous blueberry pancakes, and by evening, she was gone. Our daughter Jessica flew in from Toronto. Our son Marcus drove up from Seattle, and for 3 days our house was full of people telling me how sorry they were. Then everyone left, and I was alone with 42 years of memories and a house that felt too big and too quiet. Jessica started calling every week. At first, I appreciated it. She'd ask how I was doing, if I was eating properly, whether I'd been to the community center. But after a few months, the questions changed. "Dad, have you thought about downsizing? That house is a lot for one person." Marcus and I were talking. "Maybe it's time to think about selling. The Kelowna market is really strong right now. You know, there's a lovely assisted living facility near my place in Toronto. You could be close to the grandkids." I kept telling her I was fine. I'd been a civil engineer for 40 years before I retired. I knew how to take care of myself and my property. The house might be big, but it was paid off, and it was where Linda and I had raised our children. Every room held a piece of our life together. But Jessica was persistent. She'd always been the practical one, the planner. She worked in corporate real estate in Toronto, made good money, wore expensive suits. I was proud of her success, but sometimes I missed the little girl who used to help me build birdhouses in the garage. Then, 6 months after Linda died, Jessica showed up unannounced with Marcus. They sat me down at the kitchen table, and Jessica pulled out a folder full of papers. "Dad, we need to talk about your living situation," she said, using that professional voice she probably used with difficult clients. "I'm living fine," I said. "Are you, though?" Marcus chimed in. He was gentler than his sister, but I could see the concern in his eyes. "You've lost weight, Dad. The lawn hasn't been mowed in weeks. Mom always handled the bills. Do you even know what's due when?" "I'm managing," I insisted. But even as I said it, I knew they had a point. The house had gotten away from me a bit. There were dishes in the sink, unopened mail on the counter. Without Linda's organizational system, things had gotten chaotic. "We think you should consider selling," Jessica said. "Marcus and I have been looking at the numbers. You could get at least $900,000 for this place, maybe more. That would set you up nicely for retirement living. I am retired, and I'm living just fine. Dad, please." Jessica reached across the table and took my hand. "We're worried about you. This house is too much, and honestly, we're concerned about your decision-making lately." That stung. "My decision-making? You forgot my birthday last month," Marcus said quietly. "You've missed 3 doctor's appointments. Mrs. Kowalski next door said you left your stove on all night last week." I didn't remember any of that, but I wasn't about to admit it. "I'm 68, not 98, I snapped. "I don't need you two managing my life." Jessica exchanged a look with Marcus. She pulled another document from her folder. "We've been talking to a lawyer," she said. "If you won't make these decisions yourself, we might need to apply for guardianship. For your own protection." The room went cold. "You want to have me declared incompetent?" "We want to help you, Dad, but you're not being reasonable. We think the grief has affected your judgment. It's not uncommon in elderly people after losing a spouse." Elderly. The word hit me like a slap. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the kitchen floor. "Get out." "Dad." I said, "Get out of my house. Both of you." They left, but Jessica's final words haunted me. "We're giving you 2 weeks to think about this. Then we're moving forward, with or without your cooperation." After they were gone, I sat in Linda's favorite chair by the window, the one where she used to read her mystery novels. I felt betrayed, angry, and underneath it all, scared. Were they right? Was I losing it? That's when I noticed the pile of Linda's things I'd been meaning to go through. Her books, her knitting supplies, boxes of photos, and there, wedged between 2 hardcover novels, was her laptop. I'd forgotten she even had one. Linda wasn't particularly tech-savvy. She used it mainly for emails and looking up recipes. I opened it, expecting it to be dead after 8 months, but the battery indicator showed it was somehow still charged. When I pressed the power button, it sprang to life. No password. Linda had always found them annoying. The desktop was cluttered with folders, photos, recipes, grandkids, but one folder caught my eye. It was labeled simply, "Important, if something happens to me." My hand trembled as I clicked it open. Inside were dozens of files, spreadsheets, PDFs of bank statements, photographs, voice recordings, and a text document titled, "Read this first, David." I opened it, and Linda's words appeared on the screen, written just 3 weeks before she died. "David, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you any of this while I was alive. I was scared, and I thought I could handle it on my own. I was wrong. Jessica has been stealing from us. From you, specifically. Over the past 3 years, she's taken almost $200,000 from our accounts. I have proof bank statements, forged signatures, everything. She's been using your ID, claiming she has power of attorney. She doesn't. I confronted her 6 months ago. She begged me not to tell you. She said she'd gotten into debt with some bad investments, that she'd pay it all back. Like a fool, I believed her. I gave her a chance to make it right. But then I started digging deeper, and I found something worse. Jessica isn't just stealing to cover debts. She's been working with a real estate developer in Toronto named Richard Sutherland. They have a plan. Once they get you out of the house through either selling it voluntarily or having you declared incompetent, they're going to flip it. Sutherland has already promised her a 30% finder's fee on any Okanagan properties she brings him. Our house is worth close to $1 million. Do the math. Marcus doesn't know. I'm sure of it. He's a good boy, but Jessica has always been able to manipulate him. David, you need to fight this. Go to our lawyer, Thomas Brennan. His number is in here. Show him everything. And please don't let Jessica convince you that you're losing your mind. You're not. She's gaslighting you, setting up a narrative that you're incompetent, so her guardianship application will go through. I was going to handle this myself, but my health has been declining. Headaches, confusion, dizziness. I went to see Dr. Morrison last week for some private tests, but I haven't gotten the results yet. Something feels wrong, David. I feel like I'm running out of time. If something happens to me before I can fix this, you have to do it. You have to protect yourself. I love you. I've loved you since I was 23 years old, and I'll love you beyond whatever comes next. Always, Linda. I read it 3 times, my vision blurring with tears. Then I started going through the other files. Bank statements showing withdrawals I'd never authorized, always just under $10,000 to avoid triggering automatic fraud alerts. Copies of forged documents with my signature, but not quite right, slightly off. Linda had been meticulous, highlighting every discrepancy. Emails between Jessica and Richard Sutherland discussing the Patterson property and timing strategies for transitioning the asset. Screenshots of text messages where Jessica complained about having to play the concerned daughter and how much longer this was taking than expected. And then I found the photographs. Linda had apparently followed Jessica on one of her trips to Kelowna. There were photos of Jessica meeting with a man in an expensive suit, Sutherland, presumably outside a Starbucks downtown. Photos of them, shaking hands in front of a commercial real estate office. Photos of Jessica pointing at our house from across the street while Sutherland took notes. But the worst file was an audio recording, dated just 2 weeks before Linda died. I clicked play, and Linda's voice filled the quiet room. She was confronting Jessica. "I know everything," Linda said. The recording was a bit muffled, like her phone had been in her pocket. "I've been tracking the withdrawals. I found the emails with Sutherland. How could you do this to your father?" "Mom, you don't understand," Jessica's voice, defensive but not denying anything. "Don't." Linda's voice was steel. "Don't you dare make excuses. You've stolen $200,000 from us. You're planning to have your father declared incompetent so you can sell his house out from under him." "My God, Jessica, what happened to you?" "I was in trouble. I made some bad investments, and I needed—" "So you stole from your parents? From your own father?" "I was going to pay it back." When were you going to pay back $200,000? Before or after you took your cut from selling our house?" There was a long silence. Then Jessica's voice, colder. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to tell David everything, and we're going to the police. If you do that, you'll destroy this family. You already did that when you decided your father's life savings were your personal bank account. Another silence. Then Jessica, her voice barely above a whisper, "Please don't do this, Mom. Give me 6 months. I'll find a way to pay it back. I'll cancel everything with Sutherland. Just, please, don't tell Dad. It'll break his heart. It's going to break his heart either way. The only question is whether it breaks from betrayal by his daughter or from the truth. I choose truth." The recording ended there. I sat in the darkening living room, the laptop screen glowing in front of me. My wife had known. She'd discovered everything, confronted our daughter, and then 2 weeks later, she was dead. A sudden stroke, the doctors had said. These things happen, especially to women her age. But Linda's note mentioned headaches, confusion, dizziness, symptoms she'd been having before she died, symptoms she'd gone to get tested for. What if it wasn't a stroke? My hands were shaking as I searched through the files again. There, buried in a subfolder, was a scanned document from Dr. Morrison's office, a requisition for toxicology testing. Linda had suspected something. She'd been having symptoms she couldn't explain, and she'd wanted to know why. But the results weren't in the folder. She must have died before she got them. I needed help. I needed someone who understood computers, who could help me preserve this evidence before Jessica realized it existed. My neighbor's son, Tyler, worked in IT. He was a good kid, early 20s, always polite. I grabbed the laptop and walked next door. Mrs. Kowalski answered, surprised to see me. "David, is everything all right? Is Tyler home?" "I need some help with a computer problem." Tyler came down from his room, wearing a gaming headset around his neck. "Hey, Mr. Patterson, what's up?" I couldn't explain everything standing in his doorway, so I just said, "I need you to help me back up some files. It's important, really important." We went back to my house, and I showed him the laptop. I didn't tell him everything. I wasn't ready to air my family's dirty laundry to a 23-year-old, but I said I needed everything on the computer, backed up to an external drive, and possibly printed out. Tyler started clicking through the folders, his expression growing more serious. "Mr. Patterson," he said after a few minutes, these are legal documents, financial records. Is everything okay? Just help me back it up, Tyler, please." He nodded and got to work. While he transferred files to a USB drive he'd brought over, he kept glancing at me with concern. "Sir, I don't want to overstep, but some of these file names. It looks like your wife was documenting some kind of fraud. Have you talked to a lawyer?" "Not yet. I just found all this today." Tyler printed out the most important documents, the bank statements, the forged signatures, the emails. The printer groaned and wheezed, spitting out page after page of evidence against my daughter. "Mr. Patterson," Tyler said quietly as the printer worked, "I really think you need to take this to the police. Like, immediately. This isn't just family drama. This is theft, fraud, maybe even identity theft. I know, I need to think. Can I ask you something?" He turned to face me. "The note from your wife. She mentioned her health problems. Did she get those toxicology results?" "I don't think so. She died before I stopped, the implication hitting me." "You think someone poisoned her?" "I think your wife thought someone poisoned her. Why else would she request a tox screen?" He pointed at the requisition form. "And if she was about to expose your daughter for major financial fraud, and then she suddenly died?" "No." I shook my head. "No, Jessica wouldn't. She couldn't." But even as I said it, I remembered that audio recording, the coldness in Jessica's voice. "What are you going to do about it?" Not remorse, not shame, just calculation. "Sir, I really think you need to call someone," Tyler said. "This is way beyond my pay grade." He was right. I needed a lawyer. I needed the police. But it was 8:30 at night, and I was exhausted and overwhelmed. "Tomorrow," I promised, "I'll call Thomas Brennan first thing in the morning." Linda trusted him. Tyler made me promise 3 more times before he left, taking the USB backup with him for safekeeping. He also wrote down his phone number. "If you need anything, Mr. Patterson, anything at all, day or night, you call me, okay?" After he left, I sat with the printed documents spread across the kitchen table. 42 years of marriage. 2 children we'd raised, loved, sacrificed for, and one of them had stolen from us, planned to institutionalize me, and possibly I couldn't even finish the thought. I didn't sleep that night. I kept reading through the documents, trying to find some explanation that wasn't what it appeared to be. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. Maybe Linda had gotten it wrong, but the evidence was overwhelming. The numbers didn't lie. The emails were clear. The photographs were damning. At 7 a.m., I called Thomas Brennan's office. His secretary said he had an opening at 10. I spent the next 3 hours organizing everything into a neat folder, preparing what I would say. I was putting on my coat when there was a knock at the door. It was Jessica. She was wearing her expensive Toronto business casual tailored pants, silk blouse, that leather bag that probably cost more than my first car. She smiled warmly. "Dad, I was hoping we could talk about yesterday. I think we got off on the wrong foot." My heart was pounding. I thought about the laptop upstairs, the evidence printed out in my study. Did she know I'd found it? "This isn't a good time, Jessica. I have an appointment. This will only take a minute, please." She pushed past me into the house, that entitled way she had of assuming permission. "I talked to Marcus last night. We both feel terrible about how we approached things. We should have been more sensitive." She sat down on the couch, making herself comfortable. "The truth is, Dad, we're just worried. You haven't been yourself since Mom died, and that's totally understandable. Grief affects everyone differently. But some of the things you've been doing..." "What things?" "Well, forgetting appointments. Neglecting the house. Marcus said you called him at 2 in the morning last week, thinking it was afternoon. That's concerning, Dad. I didn't remember that, but I also wasn't sure it had happened. Was she lying, building her narrative of my incompetence? Or was I actually losing track of things?" "I'm fine," I said. "Of course you are. But here's the thing. Even if you're fine now, you're not getting any younger. None of us are. And this house is a lot of responsibility. What if something happens to you? What if you fall, or have a medical emergency, and you're here all alone?" She was good. Her voice was warm, concerned, reasonable. If I hadn't read Linda's files, I would have believed she was just a worried daughter. "What do you want, Jessica?" "I want to help you, Dad. We could list the house next week. I've already talked to a really good realtor. The market is hot right now. You could probably get over 900,000, maybe even break 1 million. Think about what you could do with that money. A nice condo in Toronto near me and the kids. Travel, whatever you want. And I suppose you'd help manage all that money for me?" Something flickered in her eyes. "Well, yes. If you wanted. I work in real estate finance. I know how to maximize investments." "Like you've been maximizing my bank accounts for the past 3 years?" The room went very quiet. Jessica's smile faltered. "What?" "I found your mother's laptop. I found everything, Jessica. The bank statements, the forged signatures, the emails with Richard Sutherland. All of it." Her face went pale, then flushed red. For a moment, I saw panic in her eyes. Then she laughed a harsh, bitter sound. "Oh my God. Mom's crazy conspiracy theories. Dad, listen to me. Mom was sick, really sick. Her mind was going. She was paranoid, seeing things that weren't there. She documented everything. She documented her delusions. Dad, think about it. Why would I steal from you? I make a good salary. I have my own money. Do you? Or did your investments go as badly as you told Linda they did?" Jessica stood up, her professional facade cracking. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're confused, just like Mom was confused. She was having a mental breakdown, and now you're having one too. The police can sort out who's confused." "The police?" She laughed again, but there was an edge of hysteria to it. "You're going to call the police on your own daughter based on files on an old laptop? Dad, do you know how that's going to look? A grieving widower, clearly struggling, accusing his successful daughter of some elaborate theft scheme? They're going to think exactly what I'm going to tell the guardianship court, that you're not competent to manage your own affairs. I have proof. You have nothing. Some old bank statements? I helped you manage your accounts. Yes. You were struggling after Mom died. I was trying to help. Any signatures were done with your permission, even if you don't remember. Any conversations about the house were just exploring options for your future care." She stepped closer, her voice dropping. "You're going to embarrass yourself, Dad, and you're going to push away the only family you have left. Marcus and I are trying to help you. Don't make us your enemies." You already are my enemy. You stole from me. You were planning to have me declared incompetent. And your mother. I stopped, not wanting to voice the terrible suspicion. What about Mom? Jessica's eyes narrowed. What are you implying? She was going to expose you. And 2 weeks later, she was dead. Jessica's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. You think Dad, Mom had a stroke. A medical event. You were there when the paramedics came. I saw what I was told to see. But Linda requested toxicology tests. She thought someone was poisoning her. She was paranoid. She was mentally ill. Jessica was shouting now. Listen to yourself. You sound insane. You're accusing me of murder. I'm accusing you of theft. The rest? The police can investigate. Jessica grabbed her bag and headed for the door. When she reached it, she turned back, and the look on her face was pure, cold calculation. You're making a huge mistake, Dad. I have lawyers. I have documentation that you've been incompetent for months. I have witnesses, Mrs. Kowalski, Dr. Chen's office, even Marcus. If you go to the police with this paranoid nonsense, I will have you declared incompetent before the end of the week. You'll lose everything. Your house, your autonomy, your dignity. Is that really what you want? Get out of my house. It won't be your house much longer. She left, slamming the door behind her. I stood there shaking, adrenaline coursing through me. Then I grabbed my coat and the folder of evidence and drove straight to Thomas Brennan's office. Thomas Brennan was 72, sharp as a tack, and had been Linda's lawyer for 20 years. When I spread the documents across his conference table, his expression grew grimmer with each page. David, he said finally, this is serious, very serious. Your daughter has committed fraud, identity theft, and possibly elder financial abuse. We need to go to the police immediately. She said she'd have me declared incompetent. Can she do that? She can try. But with this evidence, she won't succeed. What concerns me more? He picked up the toxicology requisition form. Linda came to see me 3 weeks before she died. She didn't tell you? No. She said she thought someone was poisoning her. She felt foggy, confused, dizzy. She'd started documenting her symptoms. I advised her to go to her doctor, which she apparently did. But I don't think she ever got these results. Can we get them? We can try. But David, if Linda was poisoned, if her death wasn't natural, this becomes a criminal investigation, a very serious one. We went to the RCMP detachment in Kelowna. I gave my statement to a detective named Sarah Kowalski, no relation to my neighbor. She was young, maybe mid-30s, but she listened carefully and took detailed notes. When I finished, she looked at Thomas. This is enough for us to open an investigation into the financial fraud, the potential homicide. She hesitated. That's trickier. We'd need to exhume the body for a full autopsy. That's traumatic and expensive, and there's no guarantee we'd find anything after 8 months. But you'll try? I asked. We'll investigate every angle. I promise you that, Mr. Patterson. But I need you to understand this is going to get worse before it gets better. Your daughter will fight back. It's going to be ugly. She was right. Within 24 hours, Jessica filed for emergency guardianship, claiming I was an immediate danger to myself. She submitted statements from 3 people claiming I'd been acting erratically. Mrs. Kowalski said I'd left my stove on. Dr. Chen's office said I'd missed appointments. Marcus said I'd called him at odd hours, confused about the time. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. Thomas worked around the clock, preparing our defense. Meanwhile, Detective Kowalski started interviewing witnesses and subpoenaing bank records. 3 days before the hearing, she called me. Mr. Patterson, we found something. Your wife's medical records show she had that toxicology test done the day before she died. The results came back 2 days after her death. And high levels of antifreeze in her system, ethylene glycol. It causes symptoms that mimic a stroke, confusion, dizziness, eventually seizure, and death. If ingested in small doses over time, it's hard to detect unless you're specifically looking for it. The room tilted. I sat down hard in the nearest chair. Someone poisoned her. Yes. And based on the levels in her system, it had been happening for weeks, maybe months. Small amounts in her food or drinks. Whoever did this had access to her regularly. Jessica visited every few weeks. She'd stay for a weekend, help around the house, cook dinners, were bringing her in for questioning. The guardianship hearing became irrelevant. Jessica was arrested the next day and charged with first-degree murder, fraud, and elder abuse. The evidence was overwhelming. They found searches on her computer for untraceable poisons and ethylene glycol symptoms. They found receipts for antifreeze purchased in Kelowna during her visits. They found more emails with Richard Sutherland discussing timelines and complaining that the old lady won't die. Marcus called me, sobbing. He'd had no idea. Jessica had manipulated him, fed him lies about my incompetence, used him as a witness against me. He was devastated. The trial took 6 months. Jessica's lawyers tried everything, claiming the evidence was circumstantial, that Linda's death was still just a tragic stroke, that the poisoning couldn't be proven. But the prosecution had Tyler's backed-up files, Linda's meticulous documentation, the toxicology results, and Jessica's own digital trail. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. Jessica was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole for 25 years. She'll be 73 when she's eligible for release, older than I am now. In the victim impact statement, I talked about Linda, not just about her death, but about her life. How she'd been the glue that held our family together. How she'd loved both our children equally, sacrificed for them, wanted nothing but their happiness. How she must have felt, discovering that the daughter she'd raised had turned into someone she didn't recognize. How she died alone, poisoned by her own child, trying to protect me. I also talked about betrayal. Not just Jessica's betrayal of us, but how money had betrayed her. How the pursuit of wealth had turned her into someone capable of murder. Marcus and I are rebuilding our relationship. It's slow, painful work. He's racked with guilt for not seeing what was happening, for believing Jessica's lies about me. I've assured him 1,000 times that it's not his fault, that Jessica fooled everyone. Even Linda hadn't realized the full extent of it until it was too late. I still live in the house. Every room still holds memories of Linda, but now they're mixed with the knowledge of what happened here. Sometimes I walk through the kitchen and imagine Jessica stirring poison into Linda's evening tea. It makes me sick, but I stay. Because Linda fought to protect this home, and I won't let Jessica's evil win. Tyler, my neighbor's son, checks on me regularly. He helped me set up security cameras and taught me how to use the computer better. He says I'm sharper than most people his age. I've started volunteering with an organization that helps seniors recognize and report elder abuse. I tell my story, not the dramatic parts about murder, but the subtle parts about how it starts, how a concerned child can gradually isolate you, make you doubt yourself, convince others you're incompetent, how financial abuse often precedes other forms of abuse. I tell them to document everything, to trust their instincts, to not let anyone, even family, especially family, convince them they're losing their mind when they know they're not. I tell them about Linda, who saw the danger and tried to protect me, even as that danger was killing her. Most of all, I tell them that being old doesn't mean being helpless. We have wisdom, experience, and worth. We built our lives, raised our families, contributed to our communities. We deserve respect, safety, and dignity. And we deserve to keep the homes we built, the lives we created, without fear that those closest to us will destroy them for profit. Linda used to say that family is built on trust, and trust must be earned, not assumed. I wish I'd understood that before. I trusted Jessica automatically because she was my daughter. I never thought to verify, to question, to protect myself. That's the hardest lesson I've learned. Love your family, but keep your eyes open. Because sometimes, the greatest danger comes from those who sit at your dinner table and call you dad. If you're reading this, and you're in a similar situation, if someone is pushing you to make decisions you're not comfortable with, questioning your competence, isolating you from others who might help, please reach out. Talk to a lawyer. Talk to the police. Talk to someone outside the immediate situation. And if someone you love has died under circumstances that don't quite add up, trust your instincts. Linda trusted hers, and even though it cost her life, her courage saved mine. I'm 68 years old. Linda was 66 when she died, murdered by our own daughter for money she hadn't even stolen yet. I have good years left, and I'm going to spend them making sure no other family goes through what ours did. That's what Linda would have wanted. That's the legacy I can give her now. Every morning, I make coffee in the kitchen where she died. I sit in her chair by the window. I read the newspaper, tend the garden, live my life. And every morning, I remember that I'm still here because my wife loved me enough to leave me a roadmap to the truth, even from beyond the grave. That's real love, not Jessica's version, where love is conditional on control and profit. Real love trusts, protects, and endures. Linda's love endured beyond death itself, and in that, she won.